Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Melissa and around here you'll find all sorts of beauty content. For example, on Mondays I kind of have a routine video going on. I like to do an in-depth review and a tutorial featuring the eyeshadow palette of the week. And I don't just use new palettes, I use all sorts of palettes. New, old, drugstore, high-end, luxury. I use all sorts of palettes. So if you have some of these in your collection, now's the time to get them out and start using them. So guys, you're gonna love the palette that I picked for this week, and I know I love it. So here it is. It's from bperfect Cosmetics and it's called the Carnival for the Antidote. So yes, this palette is part of the Carnival series and it's in collaboration with Stacey Marie. If you're familiar with the Carnival palettes, and you know they have the tradition of being just plain rainbow, but look at this one. This is definitely grunge rainbow. I love this color story and I think it's just perfect for the fall season. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna first do our eye look, and I'm gonna create a very odd eye look today, but it really brings out the best of this palette. And then the second part of this video is going to be my in-depth review, which is going to feature all sorts of details about this palette. So if you're into what I'm thinking about this and my personal experience with this, then stay tuned for the second half of this video. But as for right now, let's just jump right on into the tutorial. Hey guys, welcome to the prep stage of this video, and we're going to get started with everything that we need for the foundation of this eye look. We have quite a bit of steps to get through for the prep today, and I kind of feel like doing all of them, so if you're into that, then here's a big treat coming. The first thing I'm going to take is my Visine, and I'm just going to put this in my eye so I don't get really bad watery eyes while I'm doing my eyeshadow. Next, I'm going to take some eye moisturization cream. You could use any kind that you want. This is just the current sample that I'm using up from Gold Fade and MD. And I think this is actually the last bit that I'm going to be able to get out of this tube. And I'm just going to take the little part that I got out and put it on and around my entire eyebrow. So guys, I have this huge chunky glitter that I got from Profusion. And I'm talking, this is mega chunky glitter. It is big pieces, but it's kind of suspended in a gel formula, so it's easy to place. So I put this all over my entire body, and it's all over my face right now, so if you see big chunky glitter on my face, that's what it's from. And let me tell you, I don't mind it at all. Next, I'm going to take my Revlon Candid Concealer, and I'm going to take a very small flat brush, and I'm dotting this concealer throughout my entire underbrow area. And to blend this out, I'm just going to take my brush and blend it downward. And this is always a lot easier to do if you have your brows done, but I didn't do any other makeup today, so I'm just going to try my best to get it to look even. Next, I'm going to take my NARS eyeshadow base and then a thicker blending brush, and I'm going to put this NARS one really tight on my lash line and then up into and around my crease area. And the way I blend this is I blend this one upwards to meet the point that we ended the concealer from. Next, I'm taking the Maybelline Fit Me powder and a taller blending brush. And I fully coat my brush in this powder, tap it off once or twice, and then I just dot this all around the entire area of my eye. Once I get the powder situated on my eye, then I completely wipe all the powder off on the towel that I have sitting right here. And then I go back in and give the powder a blend just with that clean brush. So now the eye's all set and ready for eyeshadow. Sometimes I go in with a tight line to add some extra color and dimension to our eye look, but for this eye look, I'm not doing a tight line today. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna take this highlighter crayon thing. This one's from Chella Beauty. Chella is one of my favorite indie brands, and I do like this. And what I'm doing with this highlight crayon is I'm putting it underneath the highest point and arch of my eyebrow. Once you place it, you can take your finger and just blend it out a little bit. You can also put some into your inner corner as well, just to brighten up the area. Since I feel like doing more prep steps, I'm going to go in with 2 more steps. So I decided I am just going a tight line. So I'm going to take the same color eyeliner that I'm going to use later on my waterline. And for today, I just picked a dark green. When you're tight lining, if you do the under waterline, you want to make sure that you also go back in and do the top in between the lashes so the line looks really bold and you can see it from looking straight on. And now the last step that I'm going to do for my prep steps, just because I'm running out of things to do, is I'm going to take my contour powder. This one's from Ipsy and Gigi Gorgeous. This is just my perfect shade of contour. And unfortunately, this is the only amount that I have left, and it's all crumbled to pieces. And this one's very difficult to get anymore. And I'm taking this contour powder on the same brush that we used for the setting powder on top of the eye primer. And I'm starting up here at my eyebrow, and I'm coming just until my nose. You want to make sure you're using a very fluffy brush for this and just do the softest touches. This contour powder is so difficult to use because it's crumbled into such tiny pieces. And every time I get a broken piece of makeup, I love fixing it. I always fix my makeup. Even if I just buy it and it's broken, I always fix it. But there's totally not enough product remaining in this compact for me to even warrant fixing it. Okay, so I got some more contour powder on my brush, and now I'm running this directly into my crease. But now our eye is done and ready and set and prepped, and now we're ready to get into eyeshadow. Okay, I just got my palette set up and I'm currently cleaning off the brush I'm going to start with. And today's look that we're going to do is called a tri-blend. The way I look at it, this palette is divided up into 3 different segments. And what we're going to do on our eye is outline the entire vibe of each segment into thirds on our eyelid. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to start working from interior to exterior, and the first brush I'm going to go in with is, can you believe it, the brush I always use, my eBay special. This is just my multi-purpose detail brush. And we're going to begin with the warm side. So the first shade I'm dipping into is called Aubergine. Now this particular eye look goes from the lid to the upper lid space. So we're going to work on this in sections, and the first thing we're going to do is the lid area. So I'm going to take this shade and put it on the interior third of my eyelid only. Same brush, and the next shade I'm going into is in the neutral section in the middle, and it's called Chestnut. So we're going to fill our entire lid with really deep dark shades, and then we're going to make a gradient going upward to our upper lid area. So for the center third, I'm taking this Chestnut shade and I'm just placing it directly on the lid area. And now the same brush, I'm taking the shade Antidote and loading that one up. And I'm putting this on the outer third of my eyelid. When you're creating this specific eye look, you kind of want the lines in between the shades to be more profound. You don't want to have too much blending going on for this look. So now if you look at my eye, then we got the red, the brown, and the green in order, not really blended. So I'm still hanging on to the same brush, and I'm going to start at the red, and I'm going to take the upper third of this red shadow, and I'm just blending this upward. I'm just working on the red first. I'm not going into any other colors. Next, I'm going into the brown and doing the same thing, just blending the top third of the brown upwards. And lastly, we can't forget about the green. We're going to do the same thing with the green, just pull it up. Now we're officially blended out, and now we're ready to put on the top softening shades. And for this, I'm going to take a Bling Brushes tiny blending brush. I'm using this kind of brush because I just want a gentle wisp of softness. I don't want anything intense or harsh on my eye right now, so this is the perfect brush for what I'm going for. First, we're going to work on the red, so I'm going to take my brush and dip into the shade called Zest, which is the mustard shade. Now, while I'm trying to blend this out, I'm going to start from half of the red shade, and only the red shade. And I'm just going to brush this through half of the red. Same brush. Now for the middle section, we're going to take the shade Pampas, and I'm using the same technique for the brown shade. And then finally, same brush, we're going into the brightest green shade called Moss. And I'm just doing the same technique on the very outer corner. So here's what we have, and now we're ready to put some details on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a special detail on each segment of the look. We're going to do something special on the red, something special on the brown, and then something different on the green. And for each little detail that I'm going to draw, I'm going to use a different brush because each brush is going to give you a different type of look. So for my drawing medium, I'm just going to take a little bit of my Revlon Candid and put this on the back of my hand so I have a little working palette to use. Now the first brush I'm going to take is a very thin detail eyeliner brush, and you have to make this even thinner by wetting it. So now I'm taking some of that concealer on my brush, and for this little first section, I'm going to make a cut crease just on the red. For the middle section detail, I'm taking a little wide fluffy brush, and I'm making sure to coat the very tip of this brush. And what I'm going to do in the brown section is just go up the center and stamp a line all the way up. And now I'm finally ready for the green detail, so I'm taking this really wide flat brush. I usually use this for bottom lower lash line liner, but today I'm using it just to stamp a straight line. So again, make sure you coat the very tip of this brush. And first you want to stamp the bottom of your outer corner. Now this last one's the trickiest one because you want to center it between these two details that we have on already. So I'm thinking mine should go somewhere right here. So when I figure out what place I'm going to put it in, I'm taking my brush and I'm just going to stamp a line straight up. Now to fill these in, I really like to use this little teeny detail eyeliner brush because this really picks up the metallics really good, and then you can really place them where you want them to go. So for this first cut crease, I'm taking the shade Honey, and I'm just going to fill in the entire cut crease. On that same brush, I'm going to take the shade Oyster from the central section, and I'm going to put this on that straight line that we have going up. This one did take me a little bit of building, but this is such a pretty shade once it's placed. And then finally, for these two outer lines in the green section, we're going to take the shade Nectar. Okay, so that's the entire top eye look. Now we're ready to move on to the lower lash line, which is really easy, but it really completes the eye. First thing I'm doing is my waterline, so I'm taking that same green eyeliner that we used for the tight lining. Now I'm taking that same wide flat brush that I told you I use for eyeliner, and I'm going into a shade called Spice Coral. Now I'm going to put this red on in a tapered manner, probably about a medium thickness. Now I'm taking that really tiny blending brush that we used to blend all the top shades out, and I'm going into the shade Bonbon, and I'm completely gonna buff out this red line with that pink. Now I'm gonna curl my eyelashes, and I'm gonna use this Aubergine Beauty Mascara. As my first coat of mascara is drying, I like to do my lower lashes, so I'm just going to take this Wet n Wild Skinny Mascara. I haven't used this in a while, so I can't remember if I liked it that much or not. So this mascara works good, but it's very messy. See all those black marks on my eyeshadow? I have to go in and fix, but I do like how it worked. So while all those smudges are drying, I'm going to go in with my second coat of the Aubergine Beauty. Now I'm just going to use a small brush and get rid of all these smudges if I can. Okay, so those smudges weren't that hard to take off, so I don't think it'll deter me from using that mascara again since it works so well. But anyway, here's the finished eye look. I'm gonna go off camera really quick and do my other eye just so we have a little bit of balance in here, and then I'll be back and we could talk about this eye look and this palette. Okay guys, I'm back and this is the final finished look with both eyes done. And this is the second time that I did this eye look, and let me tell you, every time I see myself in this, I think of the fall. I think it's a really pretty eye look, and it's also really fun to do. This eye look also gives you the chance to push these shadows to their max and see what they can do. I'm not sure if this would overall be considered a wearable look since it is colorful. It's muted colors, but still colorful. But if given the chance, I would wear something like this on a daily basis and given the time. I think if you have this palette, this is definitely a look you should try. It's super fun and you will love it. With all that being said, let's get right on into the review. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this video, which is the in-depth review for this palette right here, which is from bperfect Cosmetics. This is called the Carnival 4 palette. So yes, this is in the Carnival series from bperfect, and it's called the Antidote palette. This palette is in collaboration with makeup artist Stacey Marie. Now the first thing I always like to talk about is the palette's packaging, and this packaging is okay at best. It is a custom cardboard packaging, so it is a little bit different, but I just don't really care, It does its job and it's just fine. If I were to be a palette collector, I would not collect this for the packaging alone. When you open it up, you get a pretty nice large mirror inside. This palette does fold all the way back, so it's really easy to hold and use at the same time. And in here, you're getting a whopping 45 shades weighing in at 1.5 grams each. So that's an above average amount of eyeshadow per pan. And also I want to mention that this is also comprised of eyeshadow and pressed pigments. So if you are sensitive to anything in pressed pigments, then please be mindful of that. So within this range, you're getting 29 mattes and 16 metallic shades. So that's a 64% matte heavy palette. If you love a matte heavy palette, which I happen to love a matte heavy palette, then this is definitely up your alley. As I was reading the description of this online, the official description says this is supposed to be a romantic color story. Now, I disagree with that. I know that's a very opinionated statement because anybody can have the artistic ability to see what they want in a color story. And I'm not getting romantic energy from this. I'm just not. What I get from this is a very muted rainbow-esque palette. I definitely think this fits in with the Carnival series. As you know, the Carnival series are rainbow palettes, so this does fit in with the rainbow theme. This is just a different version, and I do love that. So getting into our routine data check, firstly, this palette is not clarified to be a clean or conscious formula. This is a cruelty-free palette and is actually PETA certified. This entire palette is vegan. And there's a 24-month expiration date, and that date's located on the back of the palette itself. So moving right into our cost evaluation, this palette is still available right now, and if you got the urge to buy it, it would cost you $55.95. Although that price does seem a little bit high, it does break down only $1.24 per shade, and furthermore, only 83 cents per gram. So if you compare this palette to similar palettes available on the market, the price per shade is actually affordable. And additionally, this palette has a relatively affordable cost per gram compared to other palettes I've previously reviewed. So if you were wanting to hear my opinion about this palette, we are moving in to the most opinionated part of this video, which is my recommendation. The first thing I always like to talk about is patchiness, creasing, staining, fading, blendability, all that type of stuff. As far as patchiness goes, I didn't have any while working with this. As far as creasing, I wore my eye look for 3 hours and I didn't have any signs of creasing. And also, after that 3-hour wear time, I didn't have any fading of the colors on my look at all. Although this does have pressed pigments in it, I didn't have any staining while working with these shadows. And I also did test this formula on both a completely set base and an unset base. So that means I primed and set this eye and I didn't do anything to this eye. I had a much easier time working on this eye, and this eye, I was able to blend it fairly easily, but I was left with harsher lines, and it just took me a little bit longer to fully blend out. If you're planning on using this palette, I definitely recommend setting your eye primer with a loose finishing powder while working with this formula. That's the easiest way to get it to work in your favor. So as you're using these shades, you'll notice a slight bit of kickback, nothing extreme. And also, I did have just a tiny bit of fallout on my face, nothing that didn't dust away with a brush. So let's talk about some critiques. I do like that this goes from light to mid-tone to deep. That is one of my things that I always look for in a big palette. And this does have multiple angles of depth in it, so you can create such a wide variety of looks in here. When it's a larger palette, I love multiple options for depth because you just have a more versatile palette. And although there's not a matte black in here, this shade up here called Mystic is very, very close to a matte black, so I think it would perform in the same way that a matte black would. As far as shade redundancy, I did notice that some shades in here did have the same color and the same tone as other shades. I didn't come across very many like that, but I did notice that there were a few. As far as dud shades, everything seemed pretty good in here, but this shade called Antidote, which is named after the palette, has a very, very dry formula as compared to the other mattes in here. It's very dry and is almost scratchy feeling. As far as working with this shade, I didn't have any problems while using it. It worked just as well with all the others and blended just fine. But actually touching it, it definitely has a different feeling than all the others. With all the mattes in here, you can create so many different gradients, and it's very easy to do because you have a lot of colors in the same color family. And I found that these mattes layer extremely well. So if you're into doing layering looks, these are super fun to use to do that. And if you were wondering what type of formula the mattes are, they're a more pigmented formula. So you know how sometimes you have a buildable formula where you have to consistently build and build and build till you get the intense pigment that you want? You don't need to do that with these. As soon as you apply them, you're going to get some intensity upon your eye. Formulas like this may be a bit more difficult to manage and control, but as long as you know that going in, it could definitely help you. All the metallics in here are very smooth. They don't have any of those chunky fallout particles in them. They also have a very pigmented base, so you can use these metallics in a multitude of ways. I also attempted all application methods with the metallics in here. I used a damp brush, my finger, and a dry brush, and they all worked perfectly well no matter what method I used. I think the most impressive method was using it with a damp brush. It came out looking foiled that way, but any way you want to use them, they all worked. So if you've been searching around for a new fall palette, you like big palettes, you love the Carnival series, this is something you're interested in, or you just want to try a new brand, I would totally recommend this. Of course, I have 3 reasons why I say that. The first reason is because in here you're getting 3 different palettes in one. You're getting a red and berry tone palette. In the center, you're getting a completely neutral palette. And on the right, you're getting a green and yellow palette. I think all of them have something to do with fall, and the fact that you can mix and match within the palettes is really fun too. And that's the eye look that I did today. We pulled from each segment in here and it created a really fun fall look. My second reason why I recommend this is because, as I talked about earlier, you have lots of blending shades in here. So if you're a person that loves blending and layering, this is for you. This really emphasizes the different tones and the different color families, and because of that, it's really easy to work with and you don't have to think too hard about creating some really interesting looks. And for my third reason, I also have to point out again that these metallics are multifunctional. So not only can you use them in the standard typical metallic way, but you can use these babies in the crease, you can use them to spotlight, you can use them for a gentle wash of color, you could use them as a single shadow. But not only that, but you can apply them in so many different ways too, and it works. So yeah guys, when I rated this palette for this week, I gave it an A. The bperfect formula is one of my most loved formulas in my entire collection, and they are the standard that I compare other palettes to. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video and found it helpful, and if you did, please don't hesitate to give me a thumbs up, and if you didn't like it, just hit that thumbs down button, and until next time,